Good evening. This is the Town of Hollis Planning Board meeting for Wednesday, December 11th, 2024. I'm going to call this meeting to order. First with the roll call from my right.
Tom Wachowski.
Heather Sullivan.
Seth Davis.
Butch Gannon.
We do have a quorum. Do we have anyone on Zoom? So we are expecting one other member to join us on Zoom, but I think that we currently have a quorum. So we can, we've got a pretty packed agenda tonight. So we're gonna just kind of get into it. We do have correspondence. We received, over the last couple weeks, we received a letter from Saco River Corridor Commission, where they've attached a letter detailing their approval of a Hollis resident who requested approval to remove an existing concrete slab and replace it. I wasn't sure if this was something that came to planning board or if it was handled by code enforcement directly. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone saw that we got it. I don't believe there's anything for us to do at this time, but this may end up coming in front of us for board approval.
Well, it's, the date on it's the 25th of November.
Yes.
That wasn't our meeting date, so.
Yes, correct. The next piece of correspondence, also from Saco River Corridor Commission, they are holding a virtual Zoom meeting all about the Saco River Corridor Act and the commission as it relates to the work that we do as a planning board member, or, you know, also for municipal officials and code enforcement. This is a freebie. I do recommend that at least one member of planning board attends. I do have it on my calendar to attend tomorrow. But I'd love it if at least one other person chose to attend, just so that you could get so you could become our Saco River Corridor Commission expert. So I'll leave that to the group. That's all the correspondence that we had this week. Moving on to reports, do we have a representative from the select board? No. Do we have code enforcement officer? Yes. Awesome. If Dwayne has a report for us, we'd be happy to take it.
Also, Greg is on Zoom now.
Terrific. Hello, Greg. Would you mind introducing yourself? Well, that's Greg McPherson. That's Greg McPherson. He is our chair. I am sitting in his seat tonight as he is not feeling well.
Hand these to them. So, you want me to? Okay, very good. So,
This is our code enforcement officer, Dwayne Hanson, right?
Dwayne Hanson,
Yeah,
yeah.
great, thank you.
So, I received an email from the planning board to look for any violations at 660 Cape Road. And in doing so, I've come to find out that back in 2017, the first conditional use permit that was issued to 660 Cape Road was, in my opinion, issued incorrectly.
Okay. Do tell.
So what happened was conditions of approval that was signed by everybody, was one of them was no other uses unless it went before the planning board.
Mm-hmm.
And no expansion of any buildings, which I don't think that happened, but uses happened. But in behalf of that property, that being said, the conditional use permit for July 26th of 2017 was issued for used car sales. And that was approved. But the problem was that I found that the state statute says you have to have a service, mechanic on duty or in place to repair these cars if you sell them. So the cart got before the horse. So Tom was able to sell cars, and then he didn't get his mechanical shop till 2020, I believe. I got a permit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was applied for, but that also was done through the code officer at the time, Tammy Munson, and it didn't go before the planning board. To me, that's another use. It's all stuff that is approved for that zone, can be done, but it just, to me, it was done incorrectly back in 2017, when, they stated that, no work to be done on vehicles. The state statute says you gotta be able to work on vehicles. So that should have been looked at that time.
All right, so this is new information for this group. So this is motor vehicle and traffic dealers. I'm looking at the state statute, that's the
Sure,
piece that's
yeah.
new to me.
Yep.
All right.
I spoke with a good friend of mine yesterday, and he said, yeah, I would have had my own business, years ago if I had a garage. He works under somebody else's license. And probably Tom knows this now that, been doing it, that he was right in getting it done. But according to the conditions that was stated back in 2017, it should have gone through an application, probably through the planning board, and then, like he's doing for this mini storage, go in front of the planning board.
All right.
But some of the conditions back then in 2017 also said, no hazardous materials or oily waste to be stored on the property, but you can't have that without used cars, you know what I mean? And then he got a salvage license, I think in 2017, September. It looked like at the time the chair, Paul Mator, signed that. And maybe you or someone on the board can tell me, is a chair an official of the town?
No.
Okay.
No,
So by rights, that was signed incorrectly then?
because it needs to be, because the salvage license needs to be signed by an official of the town, of which we have 3. Bob, you qualify as an official, right?
Right, because that's one of the things that's on that application that he brought in that day for Paul to sign. It says, "Dear sir, as required by the Secretary of State, the above named applicant at this location shown is in compliance with all local building codes, zoning and land use regulations, ordinances, and has the required permits." So Paul said, geez, after reading that, I really shouldn't have signed it because, I don't know if all codes were met. So then, what I'm getting at is, I guess we should relook this and start from scratch, revisit. Not saying you can't have them, but let's do it the right way.
How do you solve it? What's the path forward?
I would say just go ahead, apply for what you have. I would say first and foremost, to have your used car sales, you gotta have your service, which you have, your mechanic on duty, could be yourself. As long as you have knowledge, it says. So I do that first, and then do your salvage. Apply for that, come through the planning board for that. Let's get those taken care of, and then we'll work on the mini self-storage.
So it would be new use application, a new use application, so that we can add so that we can assume, like, I haven't gone through all this in great detail, but from what I'm looking at here, it definitely does say those things. I don't know why we don't have anything in our ordinances that reflect that you need to have these things, that you need to have a place to repair.
So the town messed up 5 years ago?
Yeah,
7 years ago, yeah.
7 years ago now, yeah.
7 years ago.
Yeah.
And now you want me to redo my entire business. You want me to come in front of you, in front of these wonderful people, and resubmit all the stuff that I've submitted already, that's already been approved, that's already been operating, it's already been used. Because you don't think something was done correctly.
Well, I think the first order of business, frankly, is for us to send it to the attorney and get the attorney's opinion
Yeah.
on what.
Which we did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we got a hold of Ben, and Ben agreed that, you know, this stuff is,
Do you have the letter from Ben?
no, I do not.
All right.
I can get it to you, though.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, so this was in 2020.
So basically, all Tom has to do is redo the paperwork, which he already has. In other words, it's copying over what he has and just resubmitting it to the planning board.
Well, for his used car business, we have most of that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But what I'm getting at is for the building permit that was issued for the mechanic, the garage bay.
Right.
You only have one bay, right?
Yeah. Just the
Yeah.
one left.
So that should be, you know, applied for and gone to the planning board for approval.
Just the use,
Just the use.
Yep, yep.
For repair.
For repair, yep.
adding.
So it's just, what, an
Repair.
additional form? Just one additional form?
That and then coming in front of the planning board, yep.
But he can still operate his business. We're not saying to
Yeah,
stop.
I'm not saying it's up to, you know, I guess, maybe the select board. I'm not, you know, to me, it was mistakes all around.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's willing to. you
Because
know,
this gets, just so we're clear, this gets signed every year. Every single year, either,
What does?
that's the salvage
Yep.
permit.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
either Paul signed it one year, I believe Tammy tried to sign it one year, and then the state kicked it back, saying that code enforcement isn't an authorized official. So then, from then on out, select board signed it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Roger signed it last year.
So why would
Dave
they put-
signed-
why would
Dave
they
signed it
put
the year
that
before.
Stuff on the top about meeting code?
I'm not, like I
You
said,
know what I'm saying?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it was signed by select board. Code tried to sign it, they couldn't, they got kicked back. And then Paul signed it originally, I believe.
Yeah, I'll have to check, I'll give the state a call, and, because to me, maybe they're relying on the select board members to check with the code officer to see if everything's compliant on our end.
Yeah, that's what they used to do. They used to reach out to Jen or Tammy and say, hey, we're gonna sign this, make sure it's okay.
Yeah,
When did you first get this out? This is the first time you got the license in 2017.
Yeah.
So,
So in your opinion,
mhm.
if Tom just fills out the one additional form and redoes his other stuff, it should be presentable to the planning board.
Correct,
and
yep. Yep,
With a good recommendation from code enforcement.
yep,
So a conditional use permit for a repair.
repair
salvage.
and salvage. Because the initial one, if you wanna go back and redo the whole thing, Tom, but the verbiage in the original one for used car sale says any usage needs to go in front of the planning board.
We,
yeah. Greg, you have the floor.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
So, Dwayne, correct me if I'm wrong. What I'm hearing is that the town made a mistake, and now we're asking an applicant to fix that mistake.
Yes.
Yes.
So let's say the planning board approves a subdivision, and then there's some grading issues on a road. Now and they build all the houses. Now we're gonna ask that subdivision application to come back and reapply because the town made a mistake.
Yeah.
Or let's say Poland Spring gets approved for something and we make them, and the town doesn't catch some conditional use. We're gonna make them apply for the whole conditional use again, just for the fact that he didn't have a repair use in 2017, but he got it in 2020, which seems like is your biggest complaint, which has already been fixed. This seems like a very wasteful use
How are
of
you
town
saying it's already been
resources.
fixed, Greg?
Well, you're saying he can't have a used car sales place without a repair license,
Correct.
which he got in 2020.
All I'm
correct?
saying is the conditions of use in 2017, I'm just doing my job, reading what I have in front of me, and it states that any more usage on that site is supposed to be brought in front of the planning board. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, okay, so it sounds like Tammy Munson missed that. He approved a de minimis change,
Correct?
which she shouldn't have, so that's not the applicant's fault. He went to the town.
Didn't say it was.
I'm not saying it's anybody's fault, but whoever's fault it's the town's fault that it got missed. It was approved, which fixes the issue of 2017 not having a repair shop. I think it's just a wasteful use of town resources to go back and have more meetings about a conditional use that we're just saying for formality issues, 2017 wasn't amended, which the issues that you're having problems with have already been addressed.
I think one thing we might need to do is look back, so while this applicant came in front of the board for used car sales, to allow used car sales, our lack of awareness that there needed to be a repair facility or repair piece to that isn't, I'm just looking for the use table. Like, is auto repair a separate use? I mean, it's required as part of the state license. So is auto repair actually a separate use?
Yeah, I think it falls under the service.
There is a use for auto repair. But by the same token, with a used car dealership,
If he only repairs the cars that he's selling.
well, I don't think that's really here or there. The fact is, it's a state requirement that he have that. So, and he has to adhere to state requirements as well as ordinance and code requirements. And I think just a correction made that we realize that he must have a repair facility over there if he's gonna sell used cars. I don't think we need to get tied in a big knot here to get this done, and I think in the meantime, something ought to be put down on paper that says he can continue his operation until we complete this correction process. Then, the next thing, vehicle salvage and recycling license,
Is
I don't
that
know.
really a separate use?
ma'am,
Is that really a separate use?
it is.
On
It's
our
different
use table?
altogether. It's taking cars apart and selling parts off them. That, I would have thought that would have come before the planning board
Yeah, so,
when he got there.
right, so
And,
as,
let me,
sorry.
before we go any further, Tom,
yeah, of course.
I think you should sit over on the other side of the table.
That's a good idea. So we are going a little bit out of order now. We are gonna take this topic we've got to do a few other things too, but we'll take this topic up right now. Okay, so, Butch, I like the direction that you're heading. I do not know at this point how to correct.
The town's error. Without penalizing the applicant.
We can just,
Being on this side now. This is fine.
we can just get the conditional use permit and make an
Amend it.
addendum to it.
Yep,
Simple as that, to take care of the problem with the garage repair.
yep.
And it's understandable, you probably have to put a sticker on a car if you sell it. Yeah, so, I mean, and you gotta have a mechanic to do that.
Greg has his hand raised.
Yes, Greg, please jump in. You might be muted, buddy.
I apologize. This whole Zoom on my phone isn't my ideal technology here. So I think the direction, in my opinion, the direction we should move forward in is make an amendment to the conditional use. I don't think we should require Tommy to, or any applicant to go through a whole new application process. If the board feels like that we need to go ask the lawyer how to word the amendment, that'd be fine. But I think just, we're gonna do it tonight or another meeting, an amendment to conditional use permit to require the upkeep of the repair facility and salvage along with the used car sales, kind of like Butch was saying.
Yeah, I do think that it probably just makes a lot of sense for us to get language from the attorney versus us trying to put that language together with operations to continue unencumbered until we get that. Is that?
Ben's pretty good about
Yeah, he
responding.
seems to be pretty responsive.
Yeah, because I reached out to MMA Thursday last week when I was digging into this, and they didn't get back to me until Friday afternoon, like 4:30, and Ben got back to us before noontime with an email, so.
That's awesome. If you could also forward that email to Greg and myself, we'll get it to the rest of the board so that we all have the same information. And then I will send a request to Ben, asking for language for an amendment. Would somebody make a motion to state that that's how we are going to attempt to resolve the,
I'll make a motion that we draft a letter giving that car sales authority to continue in operation while we correct this, and then also to seek advice from council on proper verbiage for a correction to the thing addressing the repair facility.
I second it.
so any further discussion?
I think the vehicle salvage dealer and recycling license needs to be looked at. I was just gonna go in here and see if I could find the requirements for it. But I think that would be a separate use from the car dealership, I believe in myself. And we just have to answer some questions and findings of fact. If this wasn't done back
Right,
in
we didn't
2017.
consider that as part of it, if we didn't ask the right questions at that
Right,
time.
right.
So I
Well,
think
this-
also we can put on paper the questions. So Dwayne, if there's things that you know of that you feel need to be answered, will you let me know that too, and we'll put them all
Right.
together?
And also, to go back to the 2017 condition, there's some verbiage in there that needs to be changed, because if it doesn't get changed, it's really, like it's saying you can't have any fluids. How can you not have any fluids? You got a car coming in that was just in a wreck, you know, or you bought something that might be leaking, you know what I mean? So there's verbiage in that first conditional use permit that shouldn't have been in there. So that's gotta be redone.
Yep.
It's saying you can't work on cars, you know, you can't have anything flowing into the water. Well, I don't know if you got a tributary.
No,
I
so
haven't seen
I
that.
think number 6, no hazardous materials or oily waste shall be stored.
Right,
That's the language that you're talking about?
correct,
All right, okay,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, because that's in his original conditional use, and if we don't get that, you know, it could come back to haunt him later on, get it, you know, straightened out now, I say.
Dwayne, do you have a copy of the formal conditional use that was signed? Like, we as the board members, we don't usually sign that, usually Paul handled that at that time
Yeah.
with our
I thought
secretary.
it was in
I
that
think I gave
packet.
it to you.
Oh, okay, sorry, I
It says
apologize.
findings
Oh,
of fact at the top.
Yep.
yes, I've already stretched out, yes.
So, Butch, just to touch on the salvage part of it.
Excuse me?
Just to touch on the salvage part of it. The reason it wasn't really considered a use when we did it originally was that we're not operating as a junkyard, so we're not operating as a salvage yard. So you can't bring in a scrap car. You can't come on my come on the property and pick parts off cars. It was more of a formality of how the states set up their licensing. So to buy at certain auctions that we buy from, you needed to hold a main salvage license. So, you know, we explained to the planning board at the time that we weren't running a junkyard. There was no crushing. There was no, you know, you can't bring us a junk car and we give you money for. You can't sell us catalytic converters, stuff like that. Normal junkyard operations. But it was a way for us to buy at auctions that we wouldn't be able to without that license. So that's why, like, when the state of Maine comes down every year or two and you know does their inspection, or almost every year now, they ask us about our salvage license. They go, well, show us your list of, you know, catalytic converters when those laws change. We go, oh, we don't buy that stuff. And they go, oh, so you don't take in scrap cars? They say, no, we don't buy scrap cars. We don't sell scrap cars. Anything that we buy at the auction that turns out to be, you know, not worth fixing, we bring it down to, you know, curbside down in Old Orchard Beach. So it's not a that's I believe that's why, again, it was all new to me back then, because I think I was 6 months into the process at that point, was explaining that the salvage part was more just a license. It was right before coronavirus that the state was in the process of changing it so that you could hold they were going to separate basically recycler and salvage so that it didn't require that sign off and that whole junkyard application to be brought in front of boards. But it ended up all losing steam when they shut down and they never picked it back up. So they were going to basically separate that so that it wasn't so confusing to towns. When applicants like me came to a town and said, hey, I need a salvage license, they go, no more junkyards, pal. So that's kind of the backstory to why the salvage piece of it wasn't considered. I believe another use was that there was really no salvage operation going on. And I think that was actually originally part of the, I thought it was part of the conditions of approval, was that there was no crushing or
Well, there's no
No work
oil
on
and
vehicles.
so forth, so on.
right. But I don't see it in there now, so it must have gotten changed.
Well, we did include in the findings of fact, no work on vehicles will
Right,
be
right.
allowed on the site, which clearly
Right,
we were unaware of the requirement.
right.
So, we have a motion and a second. Do we want to vote on whether we should plan on drafting language to amend the conditional use performance standards and have the attorney take a look at that document to make sure that we draft it properly? Greg, how do you vote? how do you vote?
I think he's trying to unmute it.
He gave a thumbs up.
I'm gonna accept a thumbs up at this point. Butch,
Yes.
Seth,
Yes.
and I am also a yes.
Yeah,
So-
sorry, I can't unmute.
You're
I
okay.
apologize.
You're okay. No biggie. All right, so we've addressed that issue. Let's just keep, so can we, with this solution being worked on, can we continue Tom's self-storage application for, we wouldn't be able to approve it tonight? But could we get ourselves to the point where, once this is resolved, then we feel that we have everything we need
Yes.
if we were going to approve it?
Right.
So
Well-
yeah, go ahead.
That was me.
Oh.
I think one of the findings of fact is that any previous conditional use permit on the property, there's no problems with it. So I agree, after we get this thing taken care of, then we could vote on his
Yep.
present conditional use permit.
Okay. So that being said, so I will add that, Butch, to prior conditional use no longer. We'll say it in a much nicer way than I just did. Thank you for giving us good documentation. I really appreciate that. You know me, I'm a documentation girl, so. As we're gonna just move on to,
What is the review of?
yeah, the review of the remaining items for the self-storage unit. We do have in our packet, it's now not the next item because I'm skipping around. We do have, Tom provided a cost estimate, which was one of the required items that came up at the last meeting, which I was not at, so I can't speak to whether there was anything else. Maybe Greg, if you've got your thinking cap on. I believe that we thought that the cost estimate was the only remaining item.
Hi Heather, yes, the cost estimate was the only remaining item required for Tommy to submit before we found the application complete.
Okay, so we have one here. I have no idea if this is accurate or not accurate, because I don't do cost estimates on metal buildings. So I'm prone to accepting the cost estimate as written. It's got a date on it. Does anyone, Greg, you've seen this, right? Does anyone have any?
I have, yep.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions about this or any other piece of the package of material that we've been provided?
No question.
All right. So, in order to determine that the application is complete, I don't think we do a formal findings of fact, right? We just can check off the list.
Yeah, we
Sorry.
just need to make a vote to find the application complete, and then we can move on to the next steps.
Okay. So I will take a motion to find the application, the conditional use permit application at 660 Cape Road complete.
I will move that. The application is complete.
Thank
I'll
you.
second it.
Terrific. Any further discussion?
No.
Okay, Greg, how do you vote?
Yes.
Butch?
Yes.
Yes.
And I will vote yes as well. So we now have a complete application. And then our next step, it is not in here. sorry. I think I might be missing pages. All right. Appeals, variances, setbacks, and then zones, I swear. So the next step will be,
We don't do these that often. That's why it's.
yeah, no, I mean,
We're-
when's the last
we're-
time that we did this?
I think it was.
I think we have to vote individually on the findings of fact. When they're
Oh,
drafted.
here we go. All right, here we are. So we have now found, so the findings, meaning that would be like 7.4, the items that we are required to have to find it complete?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I
So
think we
let's,
have,
yep.
I
let's
think
just
we
go
have
through
to
it.
address each one individually,
Yep,
okay?
agreed. All right, so, section, so we just voted, but now we'll do, okay, so we're doing this a little bit backwards, I apologize. So, minor site plan review application requirements is section 7.4 of the zoning ordinance. So the applicants shall file all designated fees as determined by the select board. That's already been done, we've already confirmed that. So 7.4.1 is a complete and signed site plan review application form. Do we feel that we have that? I feel we do.
I do.
We have a copy of the deed.
Yep.
We got the names and addresses of the abutters. I feel confident that we have that.
And the abutters were there at the site walk.
Yep. Or at least notified of it. A description of the proposed use, I think we've got that. It's a mini self-storage facility. And hours of operation, he's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, self-service, 3 employees, and, materials to be used as steel building. So that's 7.4.4. 7.4.5 is a cost estimate, which we have in front of us. 7.4.6 is a scaled site plan showing the boundaries of the parcel, along with buildings, additions, renovations, floor plans, elevations. We got that. We looked at that. You guys looked at that last week. Tom, solid waste disposal, remind me how you've got a contract with a hauler?
Yep. We got a contract with Casella.
All right. Stormwater management plan.
We might ought to have a copy of that contract to file with the thing.
There's no real contract. They send me a bill every month. Would that be sufficient?
I would think it would, but it just shows, that, we're just not agreeing to things without some sort of paperwork.
What did we say about stormwater management? I believe,
Well, you're putting up a building 20 by 100,
Yeah, 25 by 100, yeah.
flat roof, slanted back.
oh, it's not significantly impacting the current drainage?
Well, if
Isn't
we,
that
just-
what we
Oh, yeah,
said?
the stormwater
if we
we
decide
discussed.
it's applicable or not, so.
What'd you say, Greg?
Yeah, sorry for dropping. Sorry, it's tough on Zoom. The stormwater we discussed that we weren't adding any impervious surface since the area that the storage units are going in are already gravel, and by main DEP standards, that's already an impervious surface.
Correct.
Acceptable to me. I knew we had talked about that. 7.4.9, an erosion and sedimentation control plan. I think you gave us,
Putting sediment control on the erosion control, just the best standards and practice and normal stuff that you do when you build a building.
including silt fence?
Yep, it'll be a silt fence along the back corner. It's drawn on the map that I turned in, I believe. I think it says erosion control.
7.4.10, any other information deemed necessary by the planning board or CEO to make a reasonable informed ruling on the project. I think I'm comfortable that we've gotten information that we need, particularly with what we got tonight. Does the rest of the board feel the same?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, we have what we need. Next step would be the actual site plan review. Is that correct? We've already done the site walk in the public hearing.
Yeah, the next step would be a ruling,
Yep.
7.7D.
Yep. So we can't do that tonight. So what's left is a ruling. And we can't do that because there's outstanding issues with the prior conditional use permit.
Correct.
And we have just want to make sure that we actually have that is a factor that we can hold on this for. All right, so we will get language, pull together a proposed amendment, run it by Dwayne. We'll obviously run it by you and the rest of the board in hopes that we will have that completed by our next meeting. And then we can move into the final ruling on the self-storage unit.
Fantastic.
Any questions?
Thank
Is there
you.
anything that we need Tom to do? I think it's all kind of in our hands right now. Okay.
Brings a copy of a bill
Yep.
for your trash pickup, that's
Yep.
all.
Yep, thank you, trash.
And now Tom can come and sit on this side of the table.
Yes, he can. So, real quick, just to kind of go back, thank you, everyone, for getting through that with us. Complete application is 12/11/24. We do have meeting minutes from prior planning board meetings to review and approve. That is part of your packet. I think there are 3 sets. We have July 24th, 2024, which was, we did some work on, had some discussions on Evelyn's Way. And then Reagan came in and talked to us about the shoreline zoning map that was on the ballot this past June. And we set a sidewalk for Evelyn's Way and a public hearing at that meeting. So you have the minutes in front of you. I'll take a motion from anyone who was at that meeting.
I motion that we accept these minutes.
Second.
Greg, how do you vote?
Yes.
I also vote yes.
I vote yes.
Yes.
All right, the meeting minutes from July 24th, 2024 are approved. Next, we have meeting minutes from August 14th. This was the site walk for Evelyn's Way and public hearing for Evelyn's Way. This is where we also did a number of public hearings. We public hearinged on cluster subdivisions, on the ADU language in the zoning ordinance, and we talked about whether we wanted to reinstate the growth ordinance. We public hearinged on all of those items. I will take a motion to approve from anyone who was at that meeting.
I motion to approve these minutes.
I'll second it. Just take the H out of my last name.
Oh, yep, I do that every time. It's like how I don't do two G's on Greg.
Yep.
Greg, how do you vote?
Yes.
I vote yes.
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 And I'm sorry, Butch, are you?
I wasn't
Yeah.
at, I wasn't at. same
No,
as
you're on the
last
next
meeting.
one. Butch's first planning board meeting, his return to the planning board, August 28th, 2024. We did Evelyn's Way again. That meeting is where we approved their site plan. We also finalized the proposed zoning ordinance changes for the November warrant. So I will take a motion from anybody that was at that meeting.
I move.
Thank you very much, Butch.
Second.
Seth, thank you. And Butch, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
And Greg?
Yes.
And the final set of meeting minutes, so this is the last piece of catch-up meeting minutes that I had to do, is from last week's meeting. I was not in attendance, so I can't speak to what was discussed. But if you guys will take a look, and then I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Greg, how do you vote?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Seth?
Yes.
Butch?
Yes.
All right. Thank you for helping me get through that. Awesome. Aren't we cooking with gas today? All right. The next set of items are some kind of almost housekeeping a little bit. I'm gonna change the order around a little bit of this as well. If you guys would go to the back of your packet, and you'll understand why. It is the ordinance update planning section. So Martha provided us with this is 3 pages. Martha provided us with the second page in this packet. It's kind of an example of timing. In this case, it is for the new town manager committee. But this was a good way for us to look at how much time we have left between now, what we need to get accomplished to propose ordinance changes for the June ballot. So the third page in that packet is my version of what Martha said, which shows April 2nd is the last day that we can finalize language for the warrant for June. I put in here when we had our meetings. So if you go backwards from April 2nd, we need to have 2 public hearings. We need to decide if we want to, so February, it's a wintry time. I was hesitant, part of me wanted to say, let's do public hearing on March 12th and March 26th. But I got a little bit nervous that we weren't leaving us any time if there was
No
a weather
wiggle room.
event.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I backed it up one and said if we did first public hearing on February 26th, second public hearing on March 12th, then that would give us March 26th to finalize our proposed ordinance changes. And vote on those, and to have them to Martha by April 2nd.
I've been seeing some language about these public hearings
Yes,
and the time frame for them.
okay.
I've seen 30 and 60, and I've seen 90.
We do have, Martha did, I don't know that I don't think I included it, but Martha did give us some time frames on public hearings. She recommended that we hold our public hearings in February.
Yes.
Okay, so we can do that too. We can do February 12th, February 26th, and then that gives us 2 meetings in March. to finalize, or, finalize at one and then move on to the next one. I'm good either way. I was trying to give us a little more working time. That's why I was trying to push it, but I just think as a group, we should come to some kind of a decision on do we have three more meetings to go over any proposed ordinance changes, or do we really only have 2 more meetings? I think that's the main question. How does the board feel about that?
I think Bennett has something to say.
Oh, yeah,
I just wanted to give some insight to those dates,
great.
and that was because the board needs to sign their warrant by April 2nd.
Okay,
So the changes that you're proposing, the select board also has to through as well. So I think that's why she suggested February as a starting point for your public hearings.
so
Just
if
wanted-
we,
So just so that's clear.
awesome. So if we did public hearings on February 12th and February 26th, that we would be meeting all of our date requirements. Okay. Is there any reason for us to not go with February 12th and February 26th as public hearing dates?
No, that sounds good.
I don't think we need to take a vote.
No.
So that being said, that means, other than tonight, we have 2 meetings in order for us to finalize anything that we want to talk about at public hearing. So when I was looking at all the different things that we have, I think that that's now going back to our agenda. We have asked the town attorney to provide us with affordable housing ordinance language that we can work off of versus us trying to write it from
Create it.
scratch.
Yep.
We have not received that back yet. If we had said, Mary asked on the 3rd, and I think that Greg and I both responded, yes, please have him work on that language. We haven't seen anything yet. I would assume or hope that we would get it. I'll send it out to everybody by email as soon as I get it, so that we can all take a look at it in our free
Spare
time.
time.
Yep. But the goal of that would be for us to determine whether or not we are supposed to add affordable housing language to our ordinances. Again, this will be public hearing, and I think we public hearing it once. Next up, it's a little bit out of order just because I'm seeing this here. There was a recommendation from our attorney. So currently, our subdivision ordinances, our subdivision regulations are written as regulations, not as ordinances. And that doesn't necessarily make them less powerful. What it does is mean that subdivision regulations can be changed by this board. It doesn't have to go in front of the voters, unlike the rest of the ordinances. The select board may decide to put it on the ballot anyway, but we've been asked to consider moving the subdivision regulations to become a subdivision ordinance that would then follow all the same rules as all the other ordinances that we have.
They'd have to come before the planning board.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So that being said, if we say, yes, we're willing to do that, the next question is, we have clusters on that. We have, I think, the subdivision regulations may intersect with the affordable housing, may intersect with the comprehensive plan. And I know myself, we know that there are some things in the subdivision regulations that can be cleaned up similarly to what we did for conditional use, make the process a little bit cleaner. We did receive a draft from Southern Maine Planning a number of months ago. I actually took that draft, I was working on it before I came in here, and identified, they gave it to us without tracked changes. So I just compared it to the version that is currently in place. There are a number of changes that we will want to look over as a board and determine if we agree with those proposed changes. And there may be things that we as a board want to make as changes in the subdivision regulations. All that being said, I think it's bigger than 2 meetings. And I think that we maybe should put that review onto our plan for the warrant in November. I will let the rest of the board.
That would give us more time to really dig into it, assess it, and, yeah.
Yep, and we would start it as soon as we were done the warrant articles for June.
Which is in April, so we could start in May.
Yes, no, actually, we could start in April, because we're gonna have them to.
Oh, by May second, yeah.
Yeah, no, April 2nd.
April
We're gonna have them to the board by April 2nd. So, again, nothing that needs a vote. Does anyone think we should try to cram in subdivision regulation/ordinance changes in the next 2 meetings? Greg? All right, so,
I've also been through and compared their draft to our current. And I've identified a lot of things in there that seem to be different.
there, yes,
Yeah,
agreed.
so-
I agree with you. And I didn't even read the words, I just did it, I just looked at it from the, like, how much red is on my page, and there was a significant amount of red on the page. Do you think, particularly subdivisions, I think this is a hot button topic in town, and I think that we do it a disservice if we try to cram it in.
Because if we crammed it in, we may not take the residents in, we may not be, I don't know how to say this, we would not be showing respect to the residents by trying to cram it in.
That, and also, we have put a request for information in with Code Enforcement Office and also in with Martha around things like how many subdivisions have been approved, how many of them were clusters. We have not, these guys are very busy. This is not I haven't followed up. This is not a ding at all, but we don't have that data to kind of support our discussions around what changes might be needed and what changes might not. So I do think that that would be helpful. Okay, so that, we're gonna put that on, put in parking lot. All right. So, the things I do think we can get on the,
We can have working sessions,
absolutely, yes, we
They
can.
don't have to be public.
That's correct. We certainly can, we certainly can.
Okay.
And we did do a number of working sessions earlier this year. We did, we would have shorter meetings. We didn't have a lot of projects coming in. And then we would go right into a workshop. And we did quite a bit of that. That being said, so I think that the affordable housing, hopefully that language will come to us and it will be pretty clean and minimal so that we could consider getting that clean, that's a clean, fresh, could consider getting that onto the warrant for June. Then I would offer up, I think that we will be ready to put the cannabis business proposal on the ballot in June as well. And I think also the next one is the floodplain management one, which I do think that we could also get that in. So moving on to the cannabis business ordinance, it's nice to see you, Terry. Thank you for coming out. I'm glad you are here, in fact, and now I wish that I had put more materials in the packet because there were some comments over, so of course I obviously took notes from the meeting that I wasn't at last week. I did the meeting minutes. So I heard, Terry, what you had to say. And Terry and I, we've been doing this. I was shocked at how long ago I didn't realize how long ago it was that that bill came up in front of the VLA committee. But that was a number of years ago. So I was able to find some, you had said something like what education material is available out there. There is education material out there. If you'll share your email address, I will send you the links to it. But it is on Department of Health website, and obviously there's some websites. It's called Good to Know Maine. That's one of the websites that they use that does have, and one of those items does mention pets. It's not as robust as what you would like to see, but there is at least a mention of it, which I thought was better than nothing. You know, generally, cannabis education, generally, departments that control cannabis regulation are concerned about human misuse. So the major concerns are substance misuse or substance use, misuse, I'm not sure if I'm using the right words, youth access, and then ensuring that people who are buying the product is labeled properly for them, for what's in the product. I did not add anything to this business ordinance around requiring stores to include language or a sign or some kind of notification around the risk to pets. Primarily, I did not include that because, number one, illegal drugs are actually the 10th most common. I got this from ASPCA website, which I could also share. They're the 10th most common poisoning of animals. So until chocolate, onions, grapes, raisins, and the other 9 items are required to have a sign up at Lowe's that says this product might be harmful to your pet, I'm not willing to put additional requirement on cannabis. That is my choice. This ordinance, while I drafted this is ours as a planning board, and of course I'm not going to not include language if others on the board feel that that's something that's really important. I did do an overview of the proposed updates. The only changes from the last version you guys have seen is that I did add that definition of greenhouse. Greenhouses are not well defined in the state of Maine anywhere. Add a definition of greenhouse. Also wanted to touch on Mary's position that did not want us to add dispensaries to the list of types of businesses that Hollis would allow if we had open licenses. I did include in your packet a copy of, well, it's the language that says, well, I included 2 things. One was the state law that requires that there is a fund established that does provide education, so that does exist, and they do it. And then the second piece was every cannabis business in the state every year has to get this form signed by their municipality. This is what we call it an LAF. It's a local authorization form. It is part of your state licensing process, and if the state does not receive your LAF, they will not renew your license. So there is no possible way that any cannabis business could open up 2 sites in Hollis without going through planning board conditional use approval and getting a business license from the town, which is then annually re-looked at to say that, yes, they have a license in town. I think where Mary's getting confused is that medical dispensaries can have 2 locations. You can have a location where you retail sell, and then you can have a location where you grow or manufacture, but that doesn't usurp the local control. You know, one of the things that the legislature did when they revamped the entire law was made local control a very strong aspect of whether or not these businesses are allowed. That being said, I did check, there are a total of now almost 80 businesses that use that label dispensary that have that license. The reason for that is because as a caregiver, you can't have an LLC or a corporation, so you don't get, the only way you can get the corporate veil, the protection of being an LLC, of someone not suing you for everything you own, is if you apply for a dispensary license because dispensaries are the only ones that are allowed to be issued to corporate entities, not individuals. The list of these are all medical stores. The list of medical dispensaries in the state of Maine, 2016, it was 6, it's now 80. Not a single one of those are new out-of-state operators. So all of those are Maine operators who either decided I want to run a dispensary or they previously had a caregiver license and then they decided to move up to a dispensary license. So that is why I did not remove dispensaries from the type of use allowed. Other than that, all changes we've already discussed. Does anyone have anything else to say since I just spent about 20 minutes doing that? Well, Terry, we just have to wait for a public. Are you guys comfortable with allowing public comment at this point? Because we do have a resident here that would like to speak.
Yes.
Okay. Can I get a motion to close the planning board meeting and open up the public? I don't think we need it now. Never mind, we don't need it.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Never mind.
Fantastic.
We're kind of jumping the gun a little bit only because of the new business.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, name's Terry Walters. I came to the planning board last week to address problems in town. And Heather, I find your remarks, quite frankly, quite disrespectful.
Well, you've
Wait.
given me that feedback before. I think that I was as respectful as
No,
possible.
Heather, you're one representative on this board.
Correct.
You're an own advocate for the marijuana industry, and that's fine. But
Okay.
I just want to get up and tell people that there's another side to the story. It's a multi-million-dollar business, and they have a dirty secret that they don't want people to know about the effects on dogs. So there's been very little education out there, and that's what I'm asking, is this board, not you, this board, to have the courage to put up some signage like that, a simple little sign at the dispensaries that warn people over the effects this can have on dogs. So I did a little research myself today. I just looked on the internet. And this is how the dogs, what are the effects on dogs? Makes them lethargic, can have increased heartbeat, urinary incontinence, vomiting, drooling, elevated heart rate, and in severe cases, seizures, comas, and death. How do they get affected? Secondhand smoke, swallowing any part of the plants, the buds, the leaves, or the stem, from edibles, brownies, and gummies, and discharged residues. So we know it's a problem. Call up the vet department, go on the internet, educate yourself.
I did.
Okay, so you know what's a problem. So how do we address a problem? We're going to just, because Heather doesn't like putting it out there in the public.
Terry, it has
No.
nothing, no, now you're offending me.
You said you're not going to put it, you're
I
not going
wrote
to make
this.
corrections.
That
That's
is exactly what I said.
And
I said,
I'm coming
I
in
don't
here
believe
with-
that's
with a
important.
correction.
I said, when I wrote,
When you wrote it.
yes, I'm the one that, yes, you know what? When you're a member of a small board like this, we do things. We write things, and then we bring it to the rest of the board and
And
have
you just
discussions
blew it
about
off.
it.
like-
No, I did
so,
not.
All right, so let's ask the other members of the
Sure,
board.
I just did.
If they think there's a problem here and it could be addressed.
Sure. Please, gentlemen, please speak up. Don't be afraid to speak up on my account. I defend my industry on a regular basis. This is nothing new.
My dog ate like 50 milligrams of edibles like a month ago. He is fine. He was down for a night. He's tired. Drooled
But
a
does the
little
general
bit.
public know that?
Yeah, I mean they can know that. It's fine.
No,
He
but
dug into
do
the
they
trash.
know it? Have they been educated to that, Tom?
No, it's not my job to educate them. It's not my responsibility.
No,
I understand where you're coming
Isn't it
from.
the industries? Isn't it the people who sell it? I mean,
Yeah.
I would quite frankly, if I was selling a product that I knew would have cause harm, I would put up a sign.
Absolutely. If
We
you're
shouldn't even have
responsible,
to- We
right?
shouldn't even have to regulate them to do it.
I don't. And it goes with any industry. I don't
Sure.
like
I don't.
overreaching.
And that's not overreaching. Look at the signs they put up in front of their stores, and they can't put up a little sign like that.
If I can
Those signs are required by law.
no time out. I can honestly say that I bet if you brought a small sign to those pot shops, they'd willingly put it up. I really think they would.
I don't think so.
I think they're good people.
I
I don't think they're here to drug your dogs, drug my dogs, or, prey
Well, I
on-
told you the response last time when I talked to one of them. He said, it's no good, dogs can't read. Won't help.
That's pretty.
That's the mentality you're dealing with.
It's kind of funny. I get what he's saying, but
But that's the mentality.
yeah, I don't like making businesses do more than they already have to do to stay alive. And it starts with a sign, and it goes to the next thing. What do we want next?
There's hundreds of pages of regulations up there in Augusta on marijuana, and this is not gonna affect their business at all.
Yep.
They can print it out on a printer and put it on the wall.
What do you guys got?
I think that you're looking at the microcosm of Hollis, and you're not looking at the big picture of the state. What does the state say?
What did the state say, Terry?
There was one bill, that wanted labeling on all packages and signage, and that bill was defeated. That's totally different than what we're talking about.
No. We're
about
talking,
signage.
you want to make Hollis be a nanny state where the state itself doesn't address it. So
Yeah,
I
state
think
doesn't
your
address it.
argument would hold water if the state wanted signage so you don't give pot to pets. The pets don't find a roach and eat it. So if the state said that, maybe your argument would hold water. But you want to turn Hollis into a nanny state over pot businesses.
No. There's thousands of bills go into the legislature here. You know how hard it is to get something changed up there when you don't have a big industry like the cannabis industry with its lobbying, there's millions of dollars of tax revenue. It's pretty hard to get something changed.
But you're not understanding. You want Hollis to put signs up where the state doesn't require
That's
it.
right.
I could see
That's
if the
right.
state required it, but
The state does not require an odor ordinance for cannabis manufacturers. We have one in Hollis, and thank God we do. Because other towns like Scarborough, there's lawsuits. So thank God we have an odor ordinance. We went far and above what the state of Maine does. So this is just a minor little thing, just to help people out, to educate people. And it's pretty pathetic when we can't even do something
I'm a pet owner.
good.
And
So am I.
and I take my dog for walks, and if he goes sniffing at something, I'll say no, and he'll stop. So maybe it's personal responsibility to make sure your dog or anybody's dog doesn't eat something they're not supposed to. Yeah, Bennett?
I think what you're. Oh, sorry.
Oh, Greg was on Zoom.
Okay.
What you're saying is that the general public isn't aware,
Right.
and that's why you want the sign.
Right,
So
absolutely.
you're saying that the general public doesn't know that pot is bad for pets, and that's why he wants.
Well, the general
want
public doesn't
signage.
go to pubs.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, Seth, let's talk about personal responsibility. My dog's been poisoned twice in Hollis, right? Both times the people who threw stuff on the ground. Where was their personal responsibility? Littering is illegal, right?
Littering.
Littering is illegal, so
Yes.
where's the
Right,
personal responsibility?
littering is illegal, but
Right.
where's the pet owner's responsibility to make sure that the pet doesn't ingest something that it shouldn't?
I was on areas that were open to the public to walk their dogs off leash.
So it sounds like an enforcement issue.
Yeah. So who's gonna enforce it? Who's gonna enforce it?
That's the
Well,
problem.
Maine's a home rule state, and we can be more restrictive than the state.
That's
We
right.
can't be less restrictive than the state.
That's right.
I understand your concern. I've experienced the same problem. It's the responsibility of a pet owner to watch his pet. It's also responsibility of any individual not to throw down things that can be harmful to pets or not to litter or whatever the case. But I don't think we're gonna solve anything right here. We got some argument going back and forth, and we either make a motion and take a vote to either do it or not do it.
I think Greg
Let me go
wanted
with
to,
Greg has a
yeah.
comment.
Go
Hey
ahead,
guys,
Greg.
Terry, I sympathize with you. You're not gonna find a bigger dog lover than myself. My dog comes to work with me every day, and until we start looking at this as a whole picture, where if we're gonna have pot stores put up signs that weed is harmful to dogs, we're gonna ask Hannaford to put up signs that grapes and chocolate and mushrooms are harmful for dogs. We're gonna put up shops in auto repair facilities that antifreeze is harmful for dogs. I don't think this is a pot store problem. I think it's more of a, if you have a dog, you should look up what's harmful for dogs. We took my dog for a walk the other day, and she was chewing on a pile of deer guts. Probably not great for dogs, but am I gonna go to the deer tagging station and ask them to put up a sign that says deer guts are harmful to dogs? Probably not. I just think that I agree there could be a problem. I just do not agree that signage is going to be the solution. Maybe the solution is that you get a message board and put in your lawn and say pot's bad for dogs, or whatever. Maybe it's a grassroots solution, but I don't think signage is the solution. That's just my opinion. I think it's just a slippery slope. Thank you.
Well, then I'd probably have to get an ordinance for a sign, but,
Not if it's a message board.
a permit for a sign. All right, so guys, let's just leave it alone, let's do nothing. People's dogs will continue to get poisoned. Go talk to any vet. They say it's an epidemic, it's happening all the time. I paid over $2,000 to get my dog fixed. And this is why landowners are gonna stop posting their land, because they're getting sick and tired of illegal dumping and stuff like this. One of the groups that supported this, the bill in the legislature, was the Maine Woodland owners. They said they're sick of what's going on in their land. So get a few more dogs poisoned, and we'll lose a few more places we can recreate. Because, these people just don't have respect for the land. They throw the stuff on the ground, and nobody's gonna enforce it, and they know it. So,
I see a lot more candy wrappers on the ground than I do roaches.
I agree. And how many dogs get poisoned by candy wrappers?
Chocolate is the number one
How many
poisoning of
dogs get
dogs.
poisoned by candy wrappers?
I don't know, I'll send you my research.
Yeah, I wish you would.
Yeah,
I don't
it's the
think
number one way that dogs are harmed, are poisoned. And I will say, while I appreciate that you believe that we have this all kind of money, do you think that the veterinarians who are making $2,000 off of you because your pet was poisoned, but they never actually did a test to prove that your pet was poisoned with
Heather.
marijuana?
Heather, you take your dog in the middle of the night to the emergency vet in Scarborough.
Yep.
The dog is in dire straits.
Yes.
They say,
Lethargic, peeing itself. Yep.
We're gonna treat this dog.
Mm-hmm.
The only way, and by the way, here's an estimate: $1,600, $2,000. Let's have a credit card up front.
Yes.
Before they even treat the dog.
Mm-hmm.
They say, we know what's wrong with your dog, just like when you go to the doctor and get diagnosed with something. They know what's wrong with you. And
Not until I tell them, or they run tests.
They-
No one knows that I have a yeast infection unless I have a test that says
No,
I
Heather,
have a yeast infection.
the doctors have seen enough of this. They
Okay.
can diagnose it.
Okay. Mhm.
Now, for hundreds of dollars more, I could have got blood tests, extensive tests. But the doctors told me, don't bother. We know how to treat your dog. We're gonna fix it.
How did they treat the dog?
They kept it overnight. They gave it carbon, and
Charcoal.
sedatives and carbon. And
Drugs. Yep.
So I'm not gonna bring you a certificate that,
You don't have to bring me anything. I believe that veterinarians have just as much power as cannabis companies when it comes to what laws are changed. And I'm not seeing the veterinarian lobbyists out there saying we need to have this warning label. How many veterinarians spoke up about having it on the packaging?
how many of you knew it was on the bill?
I mean, as a veterinarian, something that has to do with animals, what I care for, I would know I know what bills are out there. I knew that bill was out there.
If you talk to veterinarians, they'll tell you this is an increasing problem, and it is.
Okay, so you just blindly trust the veterinarians?
I think I'd like to
Oh, yeah.
propose a motion.
Yeah, yep. Please do.
I would move that we vote on this question, whether or not to include the requirement for a sign in the cannabis ordinance.
I second.
Wait. You vote, make a motion that we vote on it.
Make a motion that we add it,
All right, thank you. All right.
right? Make a motion to decide whether or not we want to add
That is
language to
correct.
the ordinance.
Yeah.
Any further discussion?
I have
Greg?
a question. Can you be a little clearer on the motion? Can you make a motion to?
I was just gonna
add
bring that
or
up.
Not add?
We'll have to go back into planning board session.
Well, we're in a planning board session. This is public comment, so it's not a public hearing.
Yep,
Yeah.
okay.
So I just want to be clear on whether the motion is to add signage requirements or do not add signage requirements.
The motion is to, I guess the proper motion, and maybe I need to wait until we go back out of public session.
We're not,
Do
I
we
move
have,
we go out of public
okay.
session
Do
back
we
into
have
planning
any other
board.
public comment on this topic? Anyone on Zoom? All right. Okay. So we don't have to motion out. So we are
Okay, the
returning to the planning board meeting.
My motion is I'm gonna make a motion to add this language to our ordinance.
What language?
The language of a
Requirement.
sign requirement in a store which supplies cannabis that says it's dangerous to animals, dogs particularly. That's my motion.
Second.
any more discussion? Greg, how do you vote?
No.
Fantastic. Tom, no.
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 It was my motion, I have to vote yes.
No, you don't have to.
Well, I'm going.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
No, thank you. I hope you dogs don't get poisoned. I also hope that.
Appreciate that.
I went through this also, this cannabis
Do you
thing.
have questions?
I do.
Bring them up. Bring them up. Because I would like to get us to a point that we motion to put
Be
this
done with
on.
it. Yeah, I
Then we
agree.
don't have to talk about it.
I think it's more substance, or more than really substance.
Was that a threat that he said as he was leaving?
No, it wasn't. He's upset.
He's just
I
upset.
understand he's upset. I just want to make sure that we understand that it wasn't a threat.
I don't take it as a
I
threat.
didn't take
Okay.
it as a threat. Thank you, though.
On the definitions, cannabis product,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Yes.
A product composed of cannabis or cannabis concentrate.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes on some more, and it goes on, and it says, at the very last, cannabis product does not include cannabis concentrate or product containing hemp.
I think that honestly, I think we took it from state law. So we tried to mimic state law as much as possible.
Yeah, well, it just seemed,
No, that's a great
Contrary.
catch. Yeah, it's a great catch. Okay. Does not include concentrate or a product containing hemp. And then concentrate is not defined. All right. Compose edible, an ointment, and a tincture. So, I think, I can go back and look at the state law on that and see if that's been clarified in state law, but I know that's where that came from. My guess is that cannabis concentrate is a product, and it also is a component of other products. So my guess is that what they're saying here is that if I was gonna make an edible, and if I was gonna make brownies, and cannabis concentrate was the cannabis that I used in it, that would be a cannabis product because it's a brownie with cannabis concentrate in it. But cannabis concentrate, you can also consume on its own. And I think what they were saying is that if cannabis concentrate on its own, that is a separate it is a separate item. It is not it is not a product.
Is that tincture?
It's not tincture. Concentrate is actually like, some people might know it as rosin. Some people might
okay.
know it as hash.
Okay.
Cannabis, it's concentrated cannabis.
Okay.
So there's a variety of different
Pardon
dabs.
my being.
So a lot of the kids talk about
Naive.
dabs these days. Dabs are a concentrated product. It is quite popular with the 21 to 30-year-old, and it's also quite popular. It's very concentrated, so it's very popular with medical patients that have high pain. So I think that's what it is. But why don't I come back with a clear answer or proposed update?
Okay.
Thank you.
Greenhouse.
Yes. My favorite topic.
Heather, I got a question.
Yeah.
Is CBD considered a cannabis product, or is THC and CBD figured differently in that?
It depends on how the CBD is sourced. So CBD that is sourced from a hemp product is just like a cannabis product, but it has less than 0.03% THC. And that is a definition that I did add here because hemp products are now a more common. There's a lot of hemp-related laws going on right now. So we added hemp, which is derivatives, extracts, cannabinoids, isomers, acids, salts, and salts of isomers, whether growing or not, with a delta-9 I always get this wrong, tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, concentration of not more than 0.3% on a dry weight basis. So the way that cannabis is considered anything with above 0.3% by dry weight. Hemp is considered anything that is derived from something under 0.3%. There's a lot of states and federal action around this topic because what people figured out how to do was to take a hemp plant that has less THC in it and make it into a concentrated product that can actually get people high. And then that is being sold. Hemp products aren't required to be sold in cannabis stores. Those are the products that you see sold in grocery stores. You see them sold in drugstores, grocery stores, gas stations. Gas stations are the primary. Those products they have less regulatory control. There's no testing requirements, or there's few testing requirements. And a number of states currently are moving to ban those products completely. So we've seen Texas, I think, is one that recently did it, and there's another bigger state. Maine will never ban, in my opinion. Maine is unlikely to ban hemp products, but we do have very loose regulations around them right now, I would say.
Okay, on the greenhouse.
Does that answer your question, Greg? So CBD oil that is made from hemp is not required to be sold in a cannabis store.
Perfect. That was my question. I guess I wasn't. Apologies for my ignorance. Just trying to make sure.
It's
we're
okay.
not-
You're
I'm
not
right there
ignorant.
with you.
You're not. It's not ignorance. It's complicated and ever changing. But you had a question on greenhouse.
Yeah, it's a simple
Yeah.
typographical thing. It starts out and permanent
Yes.
fuel cell.
Yes, I know exactly what you're saying.
All right.
But you're pulling a Paul on me.
Hey, when we look at something, there's no sense putting it out there wrong to begin with.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So I will fix that to be a permanent indoor facility. What else you guys got?
on cannabis business license.
Yes. In the definition or in that section?
It's in that section, the cannabis license.
Mhm.
No person, firm, corporation, yep, shall obtain a license before first having obtained permission from the select board.
Mm-hmm.
Applicant for a cannabis business license shall submit the following to the select board.
Mhm.
A copy of a conditional use permit approved by the planning board.
Correct. So you have to get your conditional use before you can get your permit, or before you can get your business license.
Copy of approved conditional state license.
Yep, state issues, a conditional license, as part of the three-step licensing process. Conditional is the first step, then you have the local approval, then you have final license. That final license is when you can start operating, so that's at operational status.
And the last thing, a copy of the certificate of occupancy from the code enforcement officer.
Yes,
Now, am I gonna have a store all set up and everything before I ever get a license?
yes, that is how it works. Absolutely.
Okay.
That is absolutely how it works. So knowing that you have your conditional use approval, like to me, so this is what I tell folks that are asking this question. Your conditional use approval, that is what gives you the authority to build your business at that location. Same as how somebody like Tom, who came to us for conditional use approval for our self-storage, he can't start building that until he gets his conditional use. The conditional state license, the state, as long as you can fill out a form and sign it, you're gonna get a conditional state license because they have their follow-up steps. So that just shows that you have let the state know you intend to operate this business, and you have to, I believe at the state level, there is some look into your corporate structure and who the owners of your company are to make sure that they can pass background checks. And then obviously the certificate of occupancy, well, what's not said in here is that you also need a building permit in most cases. And is that something that, so in order to get the certificate of occupancy, someone has to have gotten a building permit first. You won't issue a certificate of occupancy without first issuing a building permit.
Well, it could be something there, usually you don't have to do any construction on. They would just come in and look for a certificate of occupancy.
Mm-hmm, yep, that is, yeah, I suppose that's true.
It just
I've done hundreds of these.
sounded a little bit
Yeah, no,
convoluted.
this is a risk, it's a risky business, but,
That's me,
yeah, it's a risky business. That's all your comments?
that's it.
Okay, Greg, did you have any additional?
Unfortunately, I think I'm too ignorant on the situation to have any insightful comments. Ignorance is bliss in this one for me.
I'm gonna accept that. Thomas?
No, I'm good. I feel confident that you're going in the right direction.
Well, with all that big money behind me, and of course Seth.
No issue.
Am I allowed to make a motion, or do I need to let someone else make a
I'll
motion?
make a motion.
I'd
Do
like
we
to-
want to approve this? Is that what we're talking about?
I would like to approve this to be
Submit.
given to the select board to go on the ballot.
I move that this cannabis business ordinance for the town of Hollis be approved here at planning board level and sent to the select board.
I
for
second
Whatever they
it.
need to do with it.
We would not at this point vote on whether or not to
Okay.
recommend.
Oh, all
No,
right.
we will vote on
Okay.
whether we're gonna send it to
Okay.
select board, but then they'll put it on the warrant or
Right.
not. And then we will vote whether or not to
Okay.
recommend it. So that's not what we're doing here. All we're doing is saying we're gonna forward it along.
Send it over.
Any additional conversation? That being said, Butch, how do you vote?
Yes.
Seth?
Yes.
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 Greg?
Hold on, I just want to make sure that you're going to adjust the clerical errors prior to sending.
Yes. Yep.
Assuming so, I vote yes.
I'm gonna adjust the clerical, and I will get this board's approval for any change to that, product language. So I'll fix the clerical. All right. Whew. The next couple items are way easier to get through. The town has a comprehensive plan committee that is going to be reviewing the work that Southern Maine Planning did on our comprehensive plan, which I believe was last updated about 15 years ago. So I think we'll probably be right around that 20-year time frame by the time that we actually have the new comprehensive plan in place. They have asked for us as a planning board to put up a volunteer, a member of our team that will kind of serve as our representative on the comprehensive plan committee, and also come back and report back to us. So maybe if we have questions, we would give those to that volunteer person. So I would like to finalize who on the board is going to be a member of the comprehensive plan committee. We can have more than one. Is there anyone that would like to throw their hat into the ring?
Hi, Heather. I'd like to nominate Nick, Butch, and Heather to the Comprehensive Plan Committee.
Okay.
They're only looking for one.
I know. I will well, I don't know what Nick's choice will be. I will say if Butch and Nick, or Butch or Nick, choose to go on the comprehensive plan committee, I will decline the nice offer and let somebody else take that on, particularly where I'm still doing the planning board admin work, which is taking up more of my time.
I don't mind representing the planning board on it.
All right, do we need to formally vote? I don't think we need to. I think we can just say Butch will be one of our representatives. We will ask Nick if he would like to also represent us. Is everyone good with that?
Yep.
Terrific. Moving on. We've talked a little bit about this. The state came to us a couple months ago now. This is on the floodplain ordinance. They had some small changes that they made to the state. What's it called? It's the flood insurance rate map, and the state floodplain management ordinances. They let us know that they made those changes and that we may want to update our floodplain management ordinance. Mary was kind enough to go through and identify the minimal items that would change. That you can find on, I think the first one's on page 7 of the floodplain management ordinance. Well, sorry.
No, it's right. here
First one's on page 2.
Yep,
We added.
as amended.
Yep, and then the next one, I believe, is on page 7, which is adding, instead of saying a professional engineer, qualified professional.
That makes it cheaper.
Yep, and then they added an or in,
They took out the S and shows.
yep. So if analysis is performed that indicates a change to base flood elevation zones, they have put in an either or way to submit technical data to FEMA, to submit it to FEMA. So doesn't really impact us, I don't think. And I believe that was I apologize, page 11 in Q. There was some language updates around how wharves, piers, and docks must be designed. They can't increase flood risk, and they must be safe from flooding.
We define qualified
The
professional.
term safe.
Yeah, yeah,
Define safe.
I do not know.
Yeah.
And then they also updated the, page 19, the 100-year flood, the definition of qualified professional. So from my perspective, I am comfortable with all the proposed changes and I would feel comfortable putting this through the same motion process of would planning board like to put this in the select board's hands to add to the next warrant.
I don't know about this one on 11 though. It says must be designed to be reasonably safe from flooding and not increase flood risk. Must be reasonably safe. What's reasonably safe? You can't give me a definition for reasonably safe. That's based on conjecture.
Fair
So,
statement?
yeah, no.
Okay. Do you have a recommendation for better or language that you feel more comfortable with? Maybe that's the direction we should go in.
I can't think of one off the top of my head, but reasonably safe leads a lot to interpretation. As a paralegal, you would know that.
I do know that. I find cannabis to be reasonably safe.
Do we have a choice? Is this not given to us from the state?
We could, it did come from the state. These are changes that the state made, but as Butch said earlier, we can, as long as we're not
We can't-
looser than the
Can,
state.
can we call upon code enforcement, just, do you have anything that would,
Yeah.
might be,
No, that was in regards to the docks.
Yes.
yeah,
So the added language is the wharves, piers, and docks must be designed to be reasonably safe from flooding and must not increase flood risk.
But there's a problem there because like Saco River Corridor, they don't want you attaching it, it's not supposed to be attached to the bank.
Yep.
So what can you do? How do you-
Well, this assumes that it is only applicable to piers, docks, and wharves that are permitted in zones A and AE, which is what our ordinance says. We've got piers and wharves and docks right now.
Hey Heather, I'm sorry, I can't hear you guys. Can I get a chance to talk?
What's that, Greg?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you guys completely. So Seth, my understanding about reasonably safe for a wharf, pier, or dock would be that it is removable during flood season. So maybe some sort of wharf on wheels that is removable, or that it is tied down to some sort that it wouldn't be cause damage during a flood. So it'd be tethered down in some way. That's my understanding of what that would mean.
And it also says new construction or substantial improvement of permanent is an added word, permanent wharves, piers, and docks must be designed to be reasonably safe from flooding and not increase flood risk. So,
Right, so it should be designed in a way that if
Piers,
flooding
docks, and other
occurred,
construction.
it wouldn't cause damage to, or it's designed in a way that it wouldn't be have damage by flooding. I guess how I understand that.
So even if we take out reasonably, even if it just says safe from flooding, that still doesn't give you a straight, this is the answer, yes or no. It just leaves it open. Like you could say this isn't safe, and they could say this is safe, and then it's just a back and forth. It doesn't help anybody. But we can't leave it as shall comply with all applicable local, state, and federal regulations, because the state has added this extra piece, which could be read as more restrictive.
Their problem.
I agree. No, I don't think you should be thrown in at all. I think it makes it more, because if it just says shall comply with all applicable state, local, and federal regulations, our code enforcement officer can point to the federal regulation that they're violating and say this is what is not allowed. He can't respectfully back up his argument if it just says safe from flooding. You guys are 100% correct. It adds more ambiguity and doesn't give a straightforward example. This is what is, what you're violating.
Tom, I do understand what you're saying, but I think this is a more nuanced problem. Whereas if somebody's putting a dock on the Saco River, reasonably safe is much different than if somebody's putting on a dock on a tributary in the Saco River where flooding is
So,
much less likely to do damage. Obviously flow rate and water level differences are much greater in different scenarios. So I think it's not a one size fits all solution. I think that's where that reasonably safe comes into play, is to account for that nuance in each specific scenario and leave that up to the code enforcement officer to kind of
that,
take in those nuanced scenarios.
Do they have permanent wharves, piers, and docks on the Saco River?
Not that I've noticed yet, no.
Because it specifically says new construction or substantial improvement of permanent wharves, piers.
Believe that the new one, the main fisheries, inland fisheries and wildlife put in is permanent.
so given the fact that we're about 15 minutes from the end of this meeting, I think we should probably table this discussion and maybe ask Mary because Mary was the one that provided this to us. So maybe ask Mary what her intent is with that language. I think we can still get this resolved one way or the other to possibly include it over the next 2 weeks. In the next 2-week meeting, is everybody
Bennett
comfortable
has
with
a
that? Oh,
question.
Bennett. Yes, ma'am.
There was, oh my goodness, there was an email sent by the state, and perhaps I can forward that to you so you guys can review it in its entirety. It is very confusing.
Yep.
And it was very hard to update this ordinance.
Yes.
So, but it may have more explanation as to why those.
I think I actually still have that.
Okay.
That I think it has gone around to the board, but not in the packet form that they have today.
Gotcha.
So let's table that for our next meeting. We already did table we already did decide that the subdivision regulations are going to, we're not gonna try to attack those for this next couple of weeks. As you all know, we have tabled the owner-occupied ADU discussion for, hopefully we'll get some better guidance from the comprehensive plan. For new business, thank you, Seth, for responding to my email. We have to report our time that we have been at planning board meetings. I think I've actually captured everything now. But I may reach out to you, Butch. I know yours because you've been here just for a shorter amount of time. Yep, I've got yours, and I was able to, Greg gave me his, and I know when Tom's here or not. So that's all set.
So we're gonna go over the floodplain at a later date?
Yes, we're just at our next meeting. We already talked about the ordinance timeline. And then the final thing is I would like to let folks know, we did have a resident come to us and ask us, he said that in the past, so this packet of material that you guys got today, he indicated that in the past, that packet of material would be available online in advance of our meetings. And people could review the materials. I think that, I like the idea of that, particularly
Disclosure and transparency.
Transparency, yep. If you ever have the opportunity to go to Wells, they have a really great website that they provide a lot of information. So what it would allow people to do is people would be able to search on a project and be able to pull up all the times that project was mentioned and the materials, not just the fact that it's on an agenda, but the actual materials that we reviewed as part of it. I like the idea. I don't know if that creates a lot of additional work. I cannot promise to get the packets together 7 days in advance. The agenda is a little easier to do 7 days in advance. The packets, a lot of times things are coming in at the last minute. But I can make a good solid try at it. I don't think we need to vote on it. It's just something that I wanted to get everybody's opinion on whether or not we should pursue doing that. And then if we decide we want to pursue that, then I will send an email out to the select board asking them to do that for us. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
I think it's a good idea.
Any other?
Yes.
That's a great idea. One other thing I want to bring up before you end the meeting is that with the jumping backwards in the meeting,
Yes.
with finding Tom Witkowski's application complete, we do have a 30-day deadline at this point. So we want, and planning a future meeting, we do want to keep that in mind. Just a heads
Yes.
up.
So our next meeting, next scheduled meeting is on Christmas. None of us will be here for that. The one following that is on would be January 8th.
So I'm looking right now. Sorry. We're on the 11th now. 25th is Christmas. 8th is the next one, and the 22nd.
Now, if we don't meet that 30 days, it's deemed denied. So it's only in Tom's best interest to,
Seems backwards, but yes,
well, yeah,
because everything's kind of in the town's court to correct.
yes, it is.
We do have the option to extend.
Yes.
Just a heads up.
So you can say,
We're
I'm
good.
fine with this.
We're good
extension."
then.
But I think we take that up at the next meeting. We see if we've gotten the amendment language, maybe that we can very quickly get through that. We'll see. Does anyone on the phone have any comment? Sorry, on Zoom, have any public comment? You wanna-
Rex's the only one left.
Okay.
Really?
Well, then, in that case, we've made our plan for next meeting. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
And we are
Third.
done.
Thank you.
Thank you.